Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2007, it's a Toyota Camry, and we're going to be changing the front and rear brakes and rotors and the hardware kit. I did do the right side already, and I'm now going to start on the left side. The right side was extremely rusty. The rotor would not come off the vehicle. We needed to get in there with the bolt to get it to pull off. So we may be able to do the same thing on this side here. If not, we're going to use our heavy-duty puller made by OTC that pulls the rotors off without a problem. But we'll see how that goes. We are going to change the hardware kit, and we are going to change the brake pads, of course, and we're going to make sure that the slide pins slide properly, because if the slide pins don't slide properly, you're going to wind up with the brakes staying applied, and they're going to prematurely wear out, and we're going to be back in the same boat again. So we want to make sure that everything slides the way it's supposed to. I'm going to bring you up there. I'm going to show you what kind of tools you're going to need and what you're going to need to do to get the job done, and then we're going to do it together, and we'll get this job wrapped up. I just want to point this out to you. You'll see I usually always wear my gloves. Today we're not wearing my regular rubber gloves. I got to wear this because I got injured the other day and I can't get my rubber gloves on because these are real tight. I can't get them on this hand because it's so swollen. So we are not making any statement. That's just I have to put this on to work today because of an injury. So all right, let's get up there, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do, and then we're going to start. Okay, so I just want to point this out to you. See that tire? See how much rust is on that? That's because the brakes were that badly grinding that the customer drove it until it ground down to nothing, and that rusty sediment you see on there is actually the ground up rotor, not the front of the rotor, but the back of the rotor. And that's real common when you have a brake pad that sticks in the caliper. It'll chew up the inside like that. So, all right, enough of that. We'll get back to that in a minute. This is what we're going to be replacing. We're going to change the brake rotor. We're going to change the brake pads, and we are going to change the hardware kit that the brake pads actually rub up against. We will clean this rotor off with some brake cleaner, just to get that oily residue off, and you can see I made a mess there as well. So we're going to clean that all off before we put it back on. Some synthetic brake grease, my favorite light by OTC, the OTC Spectrum. And this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a hammer to try to persuade the rotor to come off and possibly get the brake pads out, a small screwdriver, a very long ratchet. The longer the handle, the better off it's going to be. You'll get more leverage and you'll be able to break the bolts loose fairly easy. That is a 14 millimeter. That is a 17 millimeter. Now this one you see I'm using the swivel head because it's easier to get in there. And this one we're using a regular ratchet that does not swivel because we need to actually have a little bit more torque to get that to pop off the bolts on the back of the mounting bracket. This wrench here is just in case we need to hold the slide pins so that we could take out those 14 millimeter bolts, but we'll see how it goes. I did not need this on the other side, but you never know. We're going to use a big screwdriver such as this to pry the brake pads back, or we're going to use a pry bar such as this to push the brake pads back a little bit. We'll see how that goes. A file to clean off any kind of rust on the mounting bracket itself. A tool like this to push the brake pads back in as far as they can go. I did need to use this on the other side. A hanger like this to hang the brake caliper while we're working, and some kind of a disc or something to clean off the actual hub where the rotor fits onto right inside here. We need to make sure that all that rust is off of there. So you're going to use this, or you're going to use a scraper, a razor blade, emery cloth, whatever. And this is very important because without that, we have to have a problem getting that rotor off. So we're going to screw this bolt. I'll show you. You see right here, you see that little threaded hole right there? We need to screw this bolt into that threaded hole, and that will pop that rotor off. Now, you see it's a little bit oily here. That's because I sprayed this up with some WD-40 just to get that to move a little better. So let me explain to you what we're going to do here now. Let's get some light so you can see what's going on. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to come in the back over here with the pry bar, and we're going to pry that rotor, we're going to pry those brake pads back into the bore as far as we possibly can. Once we do that, we're going to slide this caliper back and forth to make sure that these slide pins here are working properly, but we'll see how that goes. We're going to take out that 14 millimeter bolt there, And there's also another 14mm bolt down here. We're going to take the caliper, hook it up over here onto the spring out of the way, and then we're going to remove this mounting bracket here. Now that mounting bracket we're going to remove by taking off that bolt down there. You can see that bolt. That's a 17mm there. And we also have another one down the bottom. I don't know if you can see that right down here. We have another one. We're going to take that out as well. And then we'll take this mounting bracket off of the car and over to the bench here, and then we'll work on that. We're going to screw that bolt in here, and then we're going to pop that rotor off, and then we'll clean up that hub. So enough BS. Let's get started. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to take our pry bar like this. We're going to put it into the back of the rotor, and we're just going to keep constant pressure to try to push that piston back into the bore. We couldn't do that on the other side because it was so badly rusted, but we'll see how it goes here. You don't have to put a lot of force on it, just keep constant pressure, and it will slowly push in. I can feel it moving a little bit. And then we're going to slide it. Yeah, it's not moving much. So now we're just going to push that brake pad back in a little bit, just so we can get this caliper off. It is moving a little bit. Okay, we're going to take out these bolts here, that one up on the top there, and the one on the bottom right down there as well. Let's see if I can get you over here where you can see possibly a little better. How's that looking? Better? Yeah, let's give it a shot there. We're going to take out those bolts in the back right there.
Once you break them loose, they usually come out fairly easy. Okay, you don't want to lose these bolts because you are going to need to reuse these again. So we're going to put these off to the side.
All right, so we're going to hold on to these. We'll reuse these. Now we're going to take our caliper off to the side, just like this. And you see that we're going to push that piston back in a little further, but we'll come back to that in just a minute. And now we're just going to hook the caliper up, just so it's out of our way. Now we're going to take out these little pieces right here. This piece here. You just get in here with the screwdriver, hold it, and we'll pull that out. The new kit, the new hardware kit did not come with new spreader clips, so we have to reuse these. Same thing here. All right, and this brake pad here, we're just going to pull this out. I'll show you what it looks like. You can see there's nothing left on that. It's destroyed. This customer was in last year, and I told them they needed brakes on it, and they never came back for it. All right, so pry out this one here as well. Maybe not. All right, we're going to have to persuade that with a hammer. All right, now we're going to use that 17mm that we previously talked about. Right down on the bottom right here. The longer the ratchet, the more leverage you can get. Once you break them loose, they usually come out pretty easily, but if not, you'll have to use your ratchet to remove them. Now you broke them both loose. Before you took out the one on the bottom, you want to make sure your top one is loose as well. We'll take our mounting bracket off. And that's how tight this brake pad is. It gets rusted into the bracket. All right, we're going to come back to this later. We're going to replace this hardware over here, and we're going to make sure we get all this rust off of here, but we'll come back to this in just a minute. Okay, now we're going to take that rotor off. Now remember we talked about that bolt? It just screws right in here like this. And then we just turn this down until it touches. And then we just hold this with a screwdriver like this and turn it. You want to wear goggles because sometimes when you do this, the rust pops off of it. And that's it. Now, if that didn't work, there's other ways to do it. You can pound the heck out of it with a hammer and get it to move and everything. But here you don't have to break the coconuts. It comes off pretty easily when you have the right screw to screw into it. And I know you're going to ask me what's the screw, but I have no idea. I just took it out of my junk box and that's that. All right, this comes off. Now remember we talked about cleaning this hub up. Very important that that hub is spotless. You have to get all that rust off there, otherwise it's going to pulsate like crazy. So, all right, let me dispose of this and we'll come right back. Now, I'm going to use this disc to clean it up, but there's lots of different ways to do it. You want to wear eye protection for sure. Okay. All right, so once we have this all cleaned up, we're going to take our rotor and we're going to get some brake cleaner. We're going to spray this down right here, just like this. And we just grab a rag, and you want to clean it off to get most of the grease or oil off of it. And then we're going to put this back on. Okay, the reason you see me looking at this is I always try to line up these holes with where it was before I took it off. All right, we take a lug nut and just screw a lug nut on here to hold the rotor on the car while we're working. And then we're going to clean off here. Okay. All right, now we'll work on that on this caliper right here. Now, what we're going to do now is you come in here with the screwdriver and you just pry these pieces off. So let's do it on the bench here, and I'll show you exactly what to do. Okay. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this down here so we don't make a mess. Put that down there. And now we're going to take these clips out right here, just like this. Now, if you're not sure how to put these back on, just lay them someplace so you know exactly how they came off. Like that. Like that. Now, there's different ways you can clean these up. You can see there's a lot of rust in here. See how rusted that is? This is actually going to cause a problem with the new brake pads. They're going to wind up staying applied. So you can take a file like this and clean up all that rust on there, or emery cloth or whatever you have, but you need to clean up these mounting areas here where the hardware is going to go. So I'm going to clean this up on the machine over here. I have a grinding wheel, so we're going to clean this up. Once it's cleaned, then we'll come right back. All right? Okay. So now that we have it all cleaned up, we're just going to take a little bit of grease like this, and every place that that bracket is going to fit, we're going to put a little bit of grease, just like this, just to minimize the amount of rusting that'll take place in the future, just like that, and it makes it go on a little bit easier as well. Now, This is the bracket that came off that side. You want to make sure you get the correct bracket. You can see that's that. So this is not the one for this side. See how we match it up? Just to make sure it's exactly the same. So this is the correct bracket for that side. See? Just like that. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. We're going to take this bracket, match it up. That's the correct one. We're going to put this bracket on here. Now you can see that these are actually little clips that need to fit over it. This one is the one that you can push on to get it to pop in there tighter. So we're going to do that like this. And that's how it goes, just like that. All right? Now, we are going to do the same thing on this side over here as well. We're going to pop these out here, just like that. I'm going to take this back over to the bench and we're going to clean this up a little bit better. But I just want to show you this. These are your slide pins. This is very important that these pins slide. This is a little bit tight, so we're just going to pull it out just a little bit, each one. We're going to clean it up with some brake cleaner. We'll take out that pin. We'll clean it up. All right. Now, I recommend doing these one at a time because you can see this one has the O-ring on it. This one here does not. This way you don't put them in the wrong spot. And after you clean it, you put just a little bit of the silicone on here like this. A little bit on that rubber. You don't put any silicone on this end over here. Because if you put silicone in here, when you push this in, it's going to create an air pocket inside there and it's going to push this back out. So we'll take this now, put it back in here, turn it, and push it in, and just slide it back and forth until you can feel it lubricate the inside part. And then that rubber boot right there needs to pop back into that spot there. So you push it in till it pops in, and that's it. And you can see how that one slides nice and easy. I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one. A little bit of silicone on here like this. We'll push it back in and turn it at the same time. And then you can see it slides nice and easy as well. Again, you're going to push it until it pops back into there. Just like that. And that's all done. Let me go over there. I'm going to clean this one up, and then we'll come right back. Okay, then after that's cleaned up, we're going to do the exact same thing. A little bit of silicone. Every place that it's going to, the new mounting bracket is going to go. Well, I should say the new mounting hardware is going to go. All right. Now we'll take these, and we'll put these back on. My hand is killing me today, so I'm a little bit slower. Okay, now we're going to take silicone, and every place that brake pad is going to touch, you put a little bit of silicone, just like this. So this way everything slides nice and freely. Same thing up here. Okay. Now you can put the brake pads in here, or you could put the brake pads in on the car itself. I like to put them on here because it's a little bit easier to get them back in. So we're going to take the brake pad now, and remember, when you put this pad in, you see this piece here, that's spring loaded. You need to actually push that down when you put the brake pad in. So we're going to do that nice and easy. Just like that, and that's how it goes. And do the exact same thing on this side, just like that. and that's what it looks like when the brake pads are in. Now, I am going to clean this up once I have it back on the car with some brake cleaner, but that's pretty much how it looks right there. We're not going to put these spreader clips back on yet. We'll do that later on the car itself, but now we're going to put this mounting bracket back onto the vehicle itself. So, all right, let's get this set so you can see what we're doing here. Okay. All right, so we take our brake mounting bracket, put it over the top like this, and you just have to wiggle it on there, get it down in place, squeeze the brake pads together, and then we're going to catch both of the bolts that we previously took out. Now before you tighten up the top bolt, you want to make sure both of the bolts are actually in. And you tighten them down as far as you can by hand. And we'll tighten this one down as far as we can by hand. All right, we're going to tighten up the bolts to 17 millimeters. We're going to tighten them up. There is torque specs on that, but if you just tighten them up tight, you'll be fine. All right, now next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our caliper like this, put it up over here, and then we're going to push that piston back in. And the way you do that is you put your brake pads, you know what, let me set you up in a better location. Okay. Okay, the way that this works is we're going to screw this back out, of course, and now we're going to push that piston back in. Now, I use the old brake pads, but you could use the new pads if you wanted to as well. We're just going to put this piece in here just like this, and then we turn it, and then slowly pushes that piston back in. Now you don't have to kill it and try to overdo it. It'll push in nice and slowly. We're going to push that piston all the way back into the bore as far as it can go. Okay, I'm going to show you what to do when that piston pushes out, the dust boot pushes out on the side. What it is, it's got an air pocket inside there. So what we need to do is to release that air pocket to let oh, you don't have to because it actually just went down by itself. What I was going to tell you to do is you take something like this scribe or a little screwdriver and you hook underneath the boot where it connects up in there, and you lift the boot up, and then that air will dissipate. But as you can see, it came out by itself. All right? Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this caliper. We're just going to put up the top bolt, just on the top. We're not going to install both of them. We're just going to put one in there for now, and I'll show you why. All right, just like that. And then we'll lift the caliper up like that. You know what? Let me move you again in a better spot. I think that might be better for you to see. I think that probably will be good. Okay, now what we're going to do is every place that is going to touch the brake pad, we're going to put a slight bead of silicone just like this. Anywhere that touches the brake pad. Just like that. We're going to put a little bit, wait a minute, you can't see that. We'll put a little bit of silicone right here, just like this, right on the piston. And then we'll put a little silicone right on the mounting part of the caliper itself, just like that. That's what's going to touch into the brake pad. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to take this and we're going to swing this down for a second. I'm not going to show you why. Okay. Now we're going to take these two clips right here. We're going to lift this up. I just wanted to swing this down to make sure it fit in okay, and it does. We're going to lift it back up like this. Let's get that light so you can see what I'm doing here, I think. Yeah, that might do it. Okay, we're going to take these pins and you're going to put them into those little tiny holes. Let me show you. You see on the brake pad, it's got that little tiny hole right there. We're going to put these back into that little hole right there. On the new brake pad, of course. Just like that. And like that. See how it goes? Just like that. Now I'm going to hold this with my hands because the spreader clips are going to make these brake pads pop out. So we're just going to hold it like this. And then we're going to take this one. I know it's a little tough to see this one. It sure as heck is tough for me to see it as well. That, like that, and that's what they look like when they're put back in. Both of them are in there like that. And now what we'll do, we'll swing this caliper back down, and then you can let go of the brake pads because the caliper now holds them pads from popping out. And then we're going to catch the other bolt in here that we previously removed, and we can snug them down. Now, if you're trying to tighten up this caliper bolt right here and it spins, you would get in here with a wrench like this, like that, and you would hold the slide pin so it doesn't move. Just like that, right? But that's not the case here. We shouldn't have a problem. And now we'll snug these down. Actually, we do have it. It is spinning a little bit. See? See how I'm trying to tighten it? And the slide pin is just turning, it's rotating. What you would do is just take your wrench, put it on here like this, and then you can tighten it up. Same thing on the bottom one down here. Now that one is not turning, I can feel that. And that's it. Alright, so we're all set. Let's just talk about what we did. Okay. Okay, so this is what we did. We cleaned up that face underneath here where this rotor was going to go. We actually made the holes line up with the previous spots that were on that hub already. So we put the rotor on. We cleaned the face of the rotor as well as the back of the rotor with brake cleaner. This lug nut, we are going to take this back off right now. We put our mounting bracket back on. We tightened up the 17mm bolt here and the one down on the bottom over here as well. We installed our new hardware kit. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch, including here, and also the piston in the back right there. We tightened up the 14 millimeter here and the 14 millimeter there, and we put our spreader clips back on as well. All right, so fronts are done, and now we're going to go to the back, and we'll continue in the back. Okay, so fronts are done. Now, I just want to point this out to you. If you're staying with me just for the fronts, at this point you want to, if you're not staying with me for the back brakes, then at this point you want to get in the car, you want to pump that brake pedal and bring that pedal back up to the top. By pumping the brake pedal, it's pushing the piston back out until it comes in contact with the brake pad, and the brake pad comes in contact with the rotor, and then you'll have a nice firm pedal. It's normal for you to step on the brake pedal, and it goes to the floor 3 or 4 times, and then you'll feel the pedal comes up right up to the top. But that's it, you're all set then. All right, so if you're staying with me for the back, get a cup of coffee, and we're going to continue in the back, and I'm going to go change my gloves, see what this looks like underneath here, and we'll continue. All right. Okay, so this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to need to do the back brakes now on this. Again, we're going to need a file or a screwdriver, something to clean up the rust that's on the hub itself, where the hub fits into the rotor itself. We're going to need a ratchet with a 14 millimeter, and we're going to need probably a 12 millimeter, but that's for that bolt to remove the rotor. A screwdriver, a tool like this to push the piston back in, something to hang the caliper on, a small pry bar, our synthetic grease, of course our brake cleaner, a new rotor, and new brake pads. First thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up that rotor there before we do anything. So we're going to just spray it, just like that, and you just wipe it off just to get the grease that's on it from when they ship it. And then we'll do the exact same thing on the other side once we lift it up to put it back on the vehicle. Of course, we need our OTC spectrum lights so we can see what we're doing. And this is what we're going to do over here. We're going to come in here with the pry bar. We're going to put it in through here, and we're going to pry that piston back into the bore. Then we're going to check to make sure that these slide pins slide correctly and they're not binding up. We'll take the caliper off by removing that 14 millimeter bolt there, and we're going to relocate the caliper off to the side. And at that point, we're going to come down in here, and we're going to take out that 14 millimeter bolt right there. And there's also another one down on the bottom over here, and we're going to remove the mounting bracket from the car. And then we'll come over here and we'll screw that bolt in through that little threaded hole right there, and that will pop off the rotor from the vehicle. And again, you'll see that oily area there because I sprayed it up with some penetrating oil. Then we're going to take this little piece right here, we're going to take this off, and we need to put that back onto the new rotor. So, all right, let's get set up and let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is going to pry that piston back into the bore right there. We take a pry bar or a screwdriver and just put it in like this, and you just keep pressure on it. And you see how easily that one pushes right back in? So we just want to make sure that that piston is pushed all the way back in as far as it can go. By pushing that piston back in, you actually eliminate a step where you needed to use this tool before. Now we won't need to use this tool because that piston is pushed all the way back in as far as it can go. Now we're going to check these slide pins right here to make sure that this caliper slides back and forth. And as you can see, it does slide back and forth. We are going to lubricate those pins, but they're not rusted to the point where they need to be changed. So let's take this caliper off of the car. Now, I know I told you this a million times, but you don't want to lose these bolts because you are going to need to reuse these again. Okay, we're just going to leave our caliper right there for now. And now we're going to take out the bolt in the back here. And there's also another bolt down on the bottom right there. Those again are 14 millimeter. You want to break both. You want to break both bolts loose before you take one out. Otherwise, you'll try to break that bottom bolt loose, and instead of turning out, the caliper is going to pull down. So you want to break the bolt loose before you take either one out. Okay, and we'll take our mounting bracket out. Now we're going to come back to this later on because we are going to have to clean up here these the mounting the hardware. We're going to replace it, and we also going to lubricate these pins here. But we'll come back to that in just a minute. All right, next thing we need to do now is take that rotor off. Okay, you remember we take that bolt that we had, put it in here like that. And just snug this down. You hold the rotor so it doesn't turn. And you feel it pop loose. Now if it doesn't come off very easily, don't force it, because you could be pulling off the parking brake shoes along with the rotor. We'll take our screw back out. We're going to put that back in our toolbox for another day. And then we'll take our rotor and just work it back and forth. And you could feel it catching a little bit on this rust lip right inside there, but don't force it. If it jams up on there, then you'll need to take that little piece out right there, and you'll need to get in through the bottom. I'll bring you in there, I'll show you. You would get in here with a screwdriver and you would back off on the adjustment on the bottom right there. So let me put this down and I'll show you how to do that. Now this one just came right out, you know that, but if it didn't, we would have did that. That little piece in the back right there, we're going to push this out because we need to use this on the new rotor. Watch it, don't stab yourself. And we keep that and throw away this. All right, now, if you try to take that rotor off and it don't come off, I don't know if you can see this, but you see right here, you see that little star wheel right there? What you would do is you would get in here with the screwdriver like that, and you would turn off that adjustment on there to loosen it up, and then that you would get your rotor off. But that's not the case here. We don't have to worry about that. It came right off. We are going to clean this up a little bit. Actually, no, we're not, because this actually feels really good. Okay. Now we're going to take our new rotor, and before we put it back on the car, now it seems like a dopey thing, I know that, but I've had it happen before to my guys. Put this in here just like that, and push it in with your screwdriver. Push it in just like that. Okay? Because I've had my guys already put the whole brake job together and then push that piece in right there, and they push it too far, it pops inside, and then you got to take the drum or the rotor back off the car. All right? Now, before we put it back onto the car, we're going to spray it. And we're going to clean off any of that grease that's on there. And now what I always do, is line up that threaded hole right there where it was on here before. So we have it there, and this goes on here because you need to have this piece lined up right there, okay? Now at this point, if you needed to adjust the parking brake tighter, you can hear this one doesn't need to, but if you had to adjust it, you would get in here with your screwdriver and you would turn it and you would adjust that star wheel that we previously loosened up. That's not the case here. This is fine the way it is, so we're not going to do anything with that. But now we are going to go over to the bench over here, and we're going to replace these hardware pieces right here. So let's get over there and we'll continue. Okay, now we can take our brake pads out. And this one as well. These come out. We need a screwdriver. You just get in here with a screwdriver like that, pry behind it, and you can pull it off like that. Okay? Now, I just want to point this out to you as well. You see in here, this is all rusty inside there. I'm going to take this over to the bench and we're going to clean it up. And now, if you don't have a grinder, you can get in here with a file like this and just clean it up just like this. Okay? Comes out nice and clean. You want to just get that rust off. You know what? Let's just do it right here instead of going on the bench. And we'll clean it up the same way. Okay? And we're going to clean up right inside here where the new hardware goes. Clean that rust off. Okay. Now, wherever this new mounting bracket is going to go, we're going to put a little bit of the grease, just like this. Hope you can see that okay. Okay, just a little bit of grease where it's going to, the new hardware kit is going to go, just like that. Included in here. And I just want to show you this. This kit comes with two different size pieces here. This kit has two different sizes. So what you want to do is you want to match them up to make sure. Now you can see that these, I don't know if you can see that, but you see that little piece right there? You want to make sure that it's the exact same size. Now this one is a different size. You see how that moves back and forth? That's no good. This one is too big and it won't fit on there properly, but this one is the one that belongs on there. You can see it lines up exactly as the other one, and so these are the ones we need. So make sure you put the correct hardware on there, and then you take it, you put it over the top like this. Push it down. Just like that. And you want to push this piece here. I don't know if you can see this. I'll get a light here so you can see a little better. You see down inside here? You want to make sure that that clip right there is pushed in where it's supposed to be. Otherwise it's going to touch the rotor. So you want to push it in there with your screwdriver like this. Okay? So now it's in all the way where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one. Make sure you have your correct clip. And then we'll put it on here like this. Put it in there. And push this down. And that's it. Our clip is in the way it's supposed to be. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to get a rag. And we have brake cleaner on this rag. We're going to take out this slide pin and this slide pin. You're going to do one at a time because sometimes there's a rubber on the end of it and sometimes there's not. So you want to make sure you put the slide pin back in the same location that it came out of. You put a little bit of silicone on here like this. Put it in here, just rotate it and push it in and make sure that that rubber boot pops back up into that little place, that little piece right there, which it did. All right, clean this off. A little silicone on here like that. And I will put this back in like that and just turn it and push it in and make sure that that little boot pops back up like that. All right, now, again, any place that the brake pad is going to touch, you put a little bit of silicone like that on everything that the brake pad is going to touch. Okay? Now, most of the time, I put the brake pads in on the bench here, but this one I'm not gonna. I'm gonna put the inner one in because it's a little difficult to get to, but the outer I'm gonna leave it out. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna push this pad in up against this piece right here and push it so that it snaps in. So let's do that. See? Just like that. Okay? And now, if I put the other pad in, this one is going to fall out. So we're going to do this one once we're on the car again. All right, so let's get back over to the car and let's put this back together then. All right? Okay, now we're going to take our bracket, put it back over the top like this, push that brake pad in so it doesn't fall out. And now we're going to catch both of those bolts that we previously took out. You want to catch them both before you tighten one up. You want to make sure they're both caught. All right, now we're just going to snug up those bolts inside here. Son of a gun. That's the finger that I messed up the other day. Oh, that hurt. Okay. All right, nice and tight. I gotta take a break. I gotta go take a look at that. Be right back. All right, sorry about that. I think I broke this finger yesterday working here, so of course you kind of hit it, and you know, being in this business, you have no choice. You got to keep on working. All right, then we'll put the other brake pad in. You see how I put it back in there, and I push this piece back a little bit, both sides. We'll just push it back, push it in, and that's it. We're all set. Oh, that hand is killing me. All right. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our caliper, and we're going to lubricate every place that that brake pad touches. Just lubricate it just a little bit, like that, and like that. And we'll put it over the top, just like this. Now, by us pushing that piston back in, we just eliminated a step where we had last time we had to use this. This time we do not have to use it. Remember on the front how we did it? By pushing that piston back in, we just saved that step. And then we'll push our slide pins in so that the caliper fits over. We're going to catch both of the bolts first before we tighten anything up. All right, just tighten these up. Just like that. Okay. All right, that's it. We're done. All right, so we're going to talk about what we did. We made sure that this part where the rotor fits onto was nice and clean, which before you saw was nice and clean. If we had to adjust the parking brake, then we would have adjusted it right now before we put this back together. We made sure our little rubber plug is in there. We put our mounting bracket back on. We cleaned up all that rust, put the new hardware on, and lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch. We tightened up the 14mm bolts to hold the mounting bracket on. We lubricated every place on here that's going to touch into the brake pad itself. And then we tightened up both 14mm bolts here. That's it. We're all done. Okay, that's it. We're all set. All right, brakes are all done front and rear. Now, the only thing you're going to do, obviously, you put the wheels on, you're going to take a road test. But before you drive it, get in there, pump that brake pedal up, because it's going to go to the floor for at least 4 or 5 pumps. Once you pump it up, the pistons will come back out, and it'll come in contact with the brake pad, and then you'll be able to take it for a test drive, and you should be fine. It is normal that you're going to get a little bit of smoking, a little bit of burning smell. Absolutely normal, because even though we cleaned off the rotor with the brake cleaner, you still have a little bit of brake, the grease from the one that was stored in the warehouse inside the ribs or inside the back area of the rotor. So it is normal to see a little bit of smoke, a little bit of maybe a burning, oily type smell, but it'll burn right off within a short period of time. All right, so that's it. You're all done. All right, so on to the next one, and we'll see how it goes with the next job, and we'll film it. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.